Do you follow what I'm saying, all of you, right? So number one is variability. Number two is perishability. Perishability. Each service delivered, comma, ceases to exist once it's completed. This lecture I'm teaching you right now, yeah? I'm delivering a lecture online. But once the service ends, once the lecture finishes, it doesn't exist anymore. All right, it perishes, it ceases to exist. Compare with manufactured products. Manufactured products, you can store it and deliver it later. Can you follow? All right, perishability. Number three, simultaneity. All right. Services are delivered, comma, as and when it is required. The delivery of a service simultaneous. I mean, another example. You want to go and get your haircut. All right. The service, you can only get your haircut when you are there in the hair salon. Yeah. You go to the hair salon, you sit down, they cut your hair, and that's it. It's simultaneous. It's delivered when it's needed. Cannot store and deliver later. All right. Services cannot be stored for later delivery. Can you follow that? And number four, another common point of difference. No transfer of ownership. All right, no transfer of ownership. What does that mean? All right, when you obtain a service, you don't actually own that service. See, a very good example is Netflix. All right, now Netflix has actually enjoyed an incredible boom in this current COVID-19 period. Now, why has it got an incredible boom? Simple, because so many people are sitting at home. They want entertainment. We have movement control, PKB, PKBB, PK. I don't know how many PKBBs are there. Each time I read about the MCO rules, I get confused. Can't go here, can't go there, 10-kilometer limit, more than 2 people in a car. I give up. Solution, stay at home. You know what I mean? That's what I do. Yeah. I spend most days at home. Yeah. Right. So anyway, right. So what do I do at home? I watch TV. I watch Netflix. Right. Yeah. Now ask yourself this question. What are you paying for? You're paying for a service. And what you're paying is a subscription. So when I watch a movie, right, whatever the movie might be, all right, have you watched a good movie lately? I don't know. I can't remember a good movie. But, you know, when you watch any movie on Netflix or whatever, does that movie belong to you? The answer is no. There's no transfer of ownership. I mean, you watch it, the payment is just essentially a license to watch that movie for a period of time. I mean, as long as you're paying your subscription, you can keep watching the movie again and again and again. But that movie doesn't belong to you. You cannot download that movie from Netflix and claim ownership. You cannot say, that's mine. All right. So that's another important characteristic of services. Now, if you can understand these characteristics, variability, perishability, simultaneity, no transfer of ownership, you will be able to understand how service costing is different from batch costing, job costing, or what we're going to learn on Wednesday, process costing. Can you follow? All these are key points of difference, right? Now, let's get back to our lecture notes. Yeah. It says service costing. All right. Yeah, I'm here. Am I here? Yeah. Service costing. Look at that. Yeah. It says Service costing is a costing method used to compute the cost of services rendered. All right, yeah. Services, well, before I forget, did I mention? No, I didn't mention it. Number 5, one more point of difference. I thought I mentioned. It's called intangibility. There is likely to be no physical product delivered in a service. All right, think. All right. What I'm doing right now, class finishes at 12, you go on to your next class. Is there anything physical you take along with you? Something tangible, you know? I mean, if I buy a manufactured product, a calculator or a phone or whatever, you know, a mouse, you know what I mean, right? All this is physical. It's tangible. I can touch it. I can feel it. You know what I mean? I can feel my calculator. I can feel my phone. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's tangible, it's physical, right? But a lot of services are the opposite. It's intangible. There's no physical presence to it. All right. The only physical presence is maybe a restaurant. Restaurants are classed as services. So obviously the food that is delivered in front of you, all right, that you're going to eat, that's physical. But here too, we have to think carefully. It's not physical forever. I mean, you're going to eat the food, and once you finish eating the food, it's gone. It's not tangible anymore. Can you understand that? All right. Again, these are the key points of differences within services. Yeah, right. So back to where I was. All right. It says, excuse me. Service costing is a costing method used to compute the costs of services rendered. And it says a company operating in the service industry will cost its users to establish the selling price of service provided. Okay. Now, this is where it becomes very challenging, the costing part. You see, in most services, a lot of the cost is indirect. A lot of the cost is overheads. All right. So to determine the cost of delivering that service presents a major challenge. One of the methods we can utilize to find out the cost of services is something called activity-based costing, ABC. But that's next week's lesson, not today. All right. Yeah. We will deal with that later. But just understand this. A good example, it says, watch, look, read this. It says service costing is used in service industries such as car hire services, hotels, hospitals, and consultancy services. Very interesting. Now, for these industries, yeah, car hire, hotel, hospital, and etc. For these industries, ask yourself this question. All right. How do you find out the cost? Let's say you go into a hotel. All right. Imagine your job cost sheet just now. All right. Your batch costing. But let's use the same kind of system. You have direct materials, you have overheads, all right, variable overheads, you have labor, and then we come to fixed overheads, etc. If you walk into a hotel, what direct material is there? There's virtually no direct materials. Maybe some toiletries in the bathroom. But other than that, there's really no direct material, isn't it? Correct? Yeah. Is there any direct labor? Don't think so. All right. You are renting a physical location for one night or a couple of nights. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Is there any overheads? Yes, there is. There's lots of overheads in a hotel. But don't forget, finding out the overhead cost for one is not so simple. Can you understand that? Yeah. Just remember this. To find out the cost of services, not a straightforward exercise. It is actually quite challenging. All right. So if you read that, it says service costing used in service industries such as car hire services, hotels, hospitals, and consultancy services. How do we categorize services? One is external services, services provided to a customer, like provision of accounting, auditing services, educational services, and even hotel services. Some external, all right, yeah. You also got internal services, that services provided under one roof from one department to another, all right. So example would be any service provided by one department to another. You've got IT services. IT is especially important, isn't it, nowadays? Yeah, right. Everything is online. Everything is work from home. You know what I mean? So obviously IT services becomes very crucial. Human resources, maintenance work, so on and so forth. All right. Yeah. Now, cost per unit in service costing. And not so simple. I mean, on paper, it looks simple. But I will just point out to you that when you go and work in a large service organization, hotels, airlines, things like that, yeah, right? You even education, even in college services, isn't it? You find that trying to work out the cost very challenging. All right. So cost per unit service costing, it says cost per service unit will be total service costs divided by number of service cost units, number of times you expect to deliver that service. All right. Yeah. And it says cost units in service costing can be identified into the following categories. All right. One, you can use a simple measurement. All right. Yeah. It says simple cost unit is the unit of cost is simple, easily understood based on single measurement. All right. For example, hotels, you have guests, restaurants, you got meals served, transport, Grab or trains or whatever, right? Kilometers, hospitals, number of patients, schools, number of students. But hang on, let's just complicate it, because if you ever work in a service organization, you know it's going to be a little bit complicated. It's not as simple as this, yeah? Let me explain. Now, hotels, you go by guests, fair enough. But how about how many guests can go into a room? You know, some hotels, the rooms are single occupancy or twin sharing, two people, all right? Could be family rooms. Family rooms may admit 4 people or more. Correct? So it's no longer guests, but it could be guests per room. You get what I mean? Right? Restaurants, meals served, fair enough. But I don't think I've ever been to a restaurant that only serve one kind of meal. Right? Even the meal is many different types of meal. I mean, you look at the menu, you realize, hey, hang on, there's so many things on the menu. Do you follow what I'm saying? Correct? Even if you go to a fast food restaurants have high levels of standardization, isn't it? I mean, you go to Burger King, set 1, set 2, set 3. But even then, there's so many sets. And I don't think the cost will be the same for every set, isn't it? All right. Transport, kilometers. There again is complication, right? Because the mode of transportation is not the same. Take an airline company. Airline companies fly so many locations. But do they all use the same types of aeroplanes? And when you start like long distance, when you start using bigger aeroplanes to carry long distances, and then you begin to realize the cost of operating those bigger aeroplanes is not the same as the cost of operating the smaller aeroplanes. Per kilometer travel, the larger the aeroplane, the cost would probably be higher, correct? And even hospitals, you can't just use a rough measure like patients, right? Why? Because no two patients is exactly alike, right? For example, is it just an outpatient or is it an inpatient? An outpatient is someone who just comes in, outpatient clinics, sees the doctor, goes back home. But an inpatient is someone who gets admission. And when someone gets admitted, then again, there's a whole lot of complications. It could be something very simple, or it could be something very complex, some major surgery that requires the patient to stay in the hospital for a very long period of time. Please understand, simple cost units is just to get you thinking. But when you enter into the organization, you will realize there is significant complexity. Services are complex. Manufacturing, not so complex. All right, yeah. Now, composite cost unit. This is where the complexity comes in, isn't it? More than one unit is combined together to arrive at the cost unit measurement. For example, transport is no longer distance, but passenger miles, the distance that one passenger travels. Can you follow? All right. Yeah. Composite measures. Yeah. Again, this could apply. And here you realize the cost unit becomes more complex. I'll give you a simple example. Take your Grab. Yeah. A lot of people use ride sharing, isn't it? They use Grab. They use My Car, and everything else is available out there, isn't it? Right. So when you do this, when you use Grab, My Car, etc., right, you need to work based on not just distance, but the pricing. Have you ever noticed they use something called, just as a point of discussion, yeah? If you look at companies like Grab, they use a system of pricing called surge pricing. Surge pricing, yeah? This is actually, they use a computer-based algorithm. The computer tries to detect demand, distance, etc. And what the computer has is the computer has a certain basic pricing. All right. Computer has a certain basic pricing, minimum, but the computer also picks up, the software program also picks up demand. How much is the demand? Demand high, demand low, etc. And then based on that, pricing will start to alter. Pricing can go up, pricing can come down. That's surge pricing. Can you follow how Grab works? All right, pretty interesting. Have you ever noticed if you're looking for ride share on a busy day, and especially if it's raining, evening when it's heavy rain or something like that, you notice the pricing just goes through the roof, isn't it? Right? But on other times, off-peak period, pricing comes down. Right? So and this also relates to their costs. All right, as far as Grab is concerned. All right. Hospitals, we have patient days. All right. Auditing, we have number of hours that they have to work per job. Hotels, you've got room per day. Education is student hours. Can you follow? All right. Next. If you read that, the next one, it's a simple example, but I think the calculation is already done. So let's just look at it before we end our class today, right? Would you get service costing question in your exam? Okay. From what I know, it's very rare. I hardly ever seen service costing. When you talk about product costing methods, if it is tested, it's usually process costing. And I have seen batch costing in the past. I mean, I used to teach costing for year 2 and year 3. Those days, yeah, right? Those days in KPTM in Bangi, I used to come there and teach every week, yeah. But so that's how I know what is tested and what isn't. But service costing, extremely rare. Maybe discussion question. Batch costing, also not very common. But what I'm going to do on Wednesday, process costing, that's been tested quite often, and process costing can often be a bit complicated. All right, as you will see when we do the Wednesday session. Yeah, right. Continue. It says company canteen operates for 5 days a week. Following information is provided for the 5 days of operation. Identify the cost unit and calculate the cost per unit. Get it? The cost. Remember, I told you what is cost unit and cost per unit. They're two different things. Cost unit is the measurement of output. Get it? Yeah. To which you can allocate cost. And of course, cost per unit is the unit cost of the cost unit. I sincerely hope I'm not confusing you with the words. All right. Yeah. What is cost per unit? What is cost per unit? And cost per unit is the unit cost of a cost unit. Sounds very confusing, isn't it? Right. Yeah. But not to worry. I think if you read it once or twice, you'll get the hang of it. Right. Now, take a look at this. It says number of meals per customer on the days, number of customers, and the meals served. All right. Yeah. And where was I? Right. Okay. So you've got, as you can see, it says the cost of operating the canteen in the week is estimated to be euro 6,000. Cost per meal per customer would be. So how do? You take the number of meals, you multiply by number of customers. All right. To get the total number of meals per customer. Watch. All right. So, sorry. Yeah, right. Yeah. Now, you have day 1 to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And then each day, 4 meals per customer. Then you multiply by number of customers, 200, 120, 180. And then we have 150 and 100. 800, 480, 360, 720, 600, and 400. Excuse me. Total that up. That's 1,000. 1,002 plus 800 is 2,000. So 3,000 meals. And that's how we get 3,000 meals to customers. Yeah. All right. It says, so if the cost of the answer, short answer, it says, if the cost of operating the canteen during the week is estimated to be euro 6,000, cost per meal customer would be, all right, 6,000 divided by 3,000 meals. All right. So 3,000. I hope you understand. It's given here. Do you see that? But just multiply. I'm showing you how they got the total. All right, this is the total. And so 6,000 divided by 3,000 is euro 2 per meal per customer. Pretty straightforward, I think. All right. Okay. Do we have any questions? All right. So just to recap what we have done today. We have looked at job costing. We have looked at batch costing. We have looked at service costing. And to recap, I said job costing, 1 order, 1 unit. Batch costing, 1 order, X number of units, but the units will be limited, not made forever. All right. Tomorrow there'll be a new order, different number of units. That's that is batch costing. So job costing, the whole order, the cost would be for 1. But for batch, the cost would be for a predetermined number of units. So what we do, we take the total cost, we divide by the number of units within the batch, and that gives us the cost per batch. All right. That's how batch costing is different from job costing. Can you follow that? All of you? All right. And both job costing and batch costing are specific order costing. All right. Which I mentioned in the beginning. Specific. That means customer order comes first. Then we start making. Understand? You don't make in advance. Customer order comes first. Specific order costing. If I'm a customer, I place an order, then you start making. All right. Continuous operation costing is things that we know there's always going to be demand. So we don't wait for the customer to place an order, but rather we start manufacturing based on forecast of demand. For example, Nestle, right? Nestle makes all kinds of products, isn't it? They make Nescafe, they make Milo, they make Maggi Mee and all that. So Nestle knows that there is going to be a certain amount of demand for their products, right? So Nestle doesn't wait for customers to place an order. They start manufacturing in advance. Service costing, also the same. A bus company will be operating a route and they will continue operating the route all the time, right? The number of buses may increase or reduce, the frequency, I mean, depending on demand for the route. If the demand is strong, then more frequency. Demand is not so strong, less frequency. Can you follow that? Yeah, that's service costing. MRT systems. They know people are going to get on the MRT. So they don't wait for the customer to book the MRT line. You know what I mean? Right? So just continue the operation all the time. Differentiate that. And you will understand how it works. All right. I also explain the learning outcome. What do we want? Reasons. All right. What is job? What is batch? I highlighted it before I started the lesson. All right. Okay. Now, do y'all have any questions before I end my session today? My next session is on, my next session will be on, today is the, what's the date today? 1st of March, 2nd, 3rd of March.
Today is Monday, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I know, yeah. Sunday, forgot what day it is. Yeah, right. Sorry. 3rd March and 3rd March is Wednesday. But that will be a 3-hour class, so 10 to 1 p.m. Next class, all right? Okay. If you don't have any questions, I'll stop my session. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you all understood what I taught. But make sure you come on Wednesday's class on time, because Wednesday's subject is more complex. The workings and all is more challenging. All right. Yeah. So today is simple, I think. Yeah. But Wednesday will be more challenging. So make sure you come on time. I notice some people are joining in very late. Yeah. So I will start my session at 10. Make sure you're all here at 10. All right. Okay. Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No.
Okay. So thank you very much. Have a great day. All right. Stay safe.